Hello and welcome. If you are new here, my name is Erica and you have tuned into my weekly transit podcast. The whole point in this is to help you navigate the current energies with a blend of astrology, human design, gene keys, and cards. This is your space for a general collective reading, so remember to take what resonates and leave the rest behind. Before every reading, I connected with spirit, the universe, or source and set the intention to only receive and say what is in the highest love and for the highest good. My mission is to guide people towards self discovery and empowerment. So, if you would like a private reading where together we'll tap into your highest potential, overcome obstacles, and embrace authenticity in every aspect of your life, then click the link in the description box below. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. First of all, it's Gemini season officially. So that's awesome. And happy birthday to all the Geminis out there. There's so many Geminis that I hold near and dear to my heart. So if you're watching, happy birthday. And just to kind of give you like a brief description of like, more of like a surface level archetypal expression of Gemini. It's about thinking, it's about communication, it's more like short bits of information. I always kind of describe the Gemini brain as having like 100 internet tabs open at the same time, thinking about a lot of different things at the same time. They're also kind of like their attention span is a little bit shorter in an archetypal way. So that's why I say the 100 tabs open at the same time, because rather than like thinking a thought all the way through to the end, it's like I'll think a little bit about this and then I'll think a little about that. But the cool part about it is it usually all gets brought together into a really cool like way of explaining things, like kind of like a gist of all of the information that they've learned. So kind of like out of all of these 100 tabs open at the same time, here's what I think. I also always see like Gemini as being like the TED Talks. um or also, that lady at the bar that's like, let me tell you a little something, right? Like they always have something to say because they're always learning and they're always thinking. And also it rules the third house in the zodiac chart, which is going to be about like speaking and communication obviously still, but then also like short distance travels and siblings and also your teenage years. So there's also that duality, between Gemini and Sagittarius, which we're going to talk about in this coming week. We'll actually talk a lot about Gemini and Sagittarius in the coming week with all of these planets moving into Gemini as well as the full moon in Sagittarius. So also today, Mars has officially passed the North Node, but we are still feeling that conjunction, right? So there is a lot of motivation, energy, and like motion being pressured and applied toward our future collective direction, which right now is in a place of like control. It's like how we kind of like are we trying to control everything? How do we self-regulate? How do we use that energy of control for the greater good of the whole rather than just for ourselves? Like how can we not fall into the trap of being materialistic and controlling, and more so because it does have a lot to do with more tribal oriented things of like materialistic like goods and resources and whatever. So there is like a collective direction toward this, but like also there is this energy behind like what you like. I guess like basically what I'm trying to say is like where you maybe need to release control in your life, so that way that energy is going toward like this has been coming up a lot now that I think about it, like, and it will continue to, thinking even of what gates the full moon is going to be in. But it's like this energy of control or also force drains energy. So like anytime we're trying to control something or force something to go a certain way, it exhausts us. it drains our energy real quick. So this is more about getting into the flow of things, figuring out your own naturalness, your own authenticity, your own vibration, your own frequency, your own routines and rhythms and movements. Like getting to know these things means that you're going to be flowing with the force of life instead of trying to force life or control life. Jupiter is also sextiling Neptune. And I love this because Jupiter is at the very end of Taurus. I love Jupiter and Taurus. Like I'm almost a little saddened that this transit is ending. I mean, I'm not really sad because I'm always excited for every new transit, but Jupiter in transit has been really great for like getting acquainted with what we value and expanding, like learning more as well about what we value. With this sextile to Neptune before it moves into Gemini, it's like this last little chance to really trust that what you have been working on will come to you, that you're worthy of it, that you're worthy of receiving, that the universe has got your back, that it's not just delusional, that it's not just fantasy. Saturn in Pisces is calling out the delusions and the fantasy. Neptune in Pisces is like, what is even real? What is reality? So yeah, I think that there's some really good energy today, Monday, to get not escape, right? Not escapism, but trust. Wednesday, the sun is going to make a trine to Pluto. So sun now in Gemini, going to move into 1 to 2 degrees of Gemini, and that is going to make a trine aspect to Pluto. And I think that this is going to be interesting because it's going to have like, the sun giving us some energy with Pluto hasn't happened yet. And so I mean, since the sun was in Aquarius and then I guess the sun in Taurus, we would have had a square right there. But this will be our first trine to Pluto in Aquarius. And so I think that we're going to kind of like see some information about this transit, which again is a long transit. It's a 20-year transit. So this is just going to be like a little peek into like, what's this about? Like, let's get curious about this. And remember, Pluto in Aquarius is all about transforming like how we stand out in a crowd. It's transforming groupthink. It's transforming technology. It's transforming humanitarianism. It's transforming like charity. It's transforming like how we collectively relate to each other. So that will all be highlighted as well throughout the week. Today throughout the week. We'll just say that. Thursday at about 8:52 a.m. Central Time is when we are going to have the full moon in Sagittarius. And this full moon in Sagittarius it's going to be while the sun is trining Pluto, and then the moon is going to sextile Pluto. So everything I just talked about with the Aquarian Pluto is going to also be highlighted throughout this full moon cycle. When we have that opposition between Gemini and Sagittarius, like as I said about Gemini being these like shorter bursts of information, Sagittarius is really about the learned experience. It's like Gemini will read a chunk of 20 books and compile their like summarization of that information, but Sagittarius is going to be the type to go out there and experience, like get their hands dirty, like get in there and do it themselves, and then they're going to build wisdom around that particular thing and give that wisdom back, become more of like a teacher type of archetype. And Gemini is more of like a student or learner kind of archetype. But it's not about like one or the other. It's about bringing, every full moon is about bringing these two energies into balance with each other. To kind of further expand on that with the gate information, This is going to be in line 3. So, you know, it's a bit of trial and error, fuck around and find out kind of energy. But it's the full moon particularly is in gate 34, and that shadow is force, right? So that's why, again, we get to that control, that force, right? The gift of 34 is strength, because it's talking about how like we all have our own unique strengths. When we allow those strengths to shine through, we are gonna again be in the flow of life, be bringing our strengths to the collective in a way that is natural, because our strengths are natural for us. And we're going to kind of like build boundaries around that as well, which also perpetuates even more strength in our energy, in our aura, in the way that we present ourselves and show up into the world. So the shadow is like to really get clear about the things in your life that you've been trying to force to go your way, or maybe you've been trying to force yourself to fit in a box that you just don't naturally fit into, or maybe you've been trying to force a relationship to work that is just, you know, maybe you've outgrown it and you're still trying to force it to work. Like, think of all these ways that you are like going against the natural flow and rhythm of life. This could really also, with that trine sextile aspect of Pluto, this could be transformative in this way, you know, in this way also of like, hey, maybe I've been trying to force myself to fit in with like certain groups of people, or maybe I've been trying to force my ideals or my values or my opinions onto the collective. Like, I could really see this like perfectly with the internet world, right? Like, think of that. Think of everyone on the fucking internet just trying to force their viewpoint onto everyone else. And how well is that working? You know, is that changing the world? Being a keyboard warrior, is that doing anything? Is that changing the world? And I'm not coming at that from a place of shame, because that's been me. You know, I've been a keyboard warrior many times in my life. So, but you know, there's been a lot of times where I've really had to get real with myself and be like, is this a waste of my fucking time? Like, what good is this doing? So just something to think about. The sun is in gate 20. And gate 20 is all about getting in the moment, being present in the moment, having patience, having awareness. Like, that's a big thing. So like, I want to say that with that awareness as the gift, it's like we're taking the shadow of force and we're shedding or ridding that out of our lives, so that way we can be more present and in the moment to recognize our strengths, so that way we are like, because you know, like, of course, if we don't even recognize our own strengths and our own talents and what makes us special and what makes us like unique, then it's really easy, like it's almost impossible not to fall in the traps of trying to control and force everything, because that's all you've got, you know. But like, if you can really be aware and notice your own strengths, your own uniqueness, your own talents, notice when other people are noticing, like, then you're going to be able to build on that and become more of a detractor, right? Because then you're going to be attracting the resources, the people, the opportunities that are in alignment with you and who you uniquely are and your own strengths and talents, instead of trying to force everything. And the more that you attract those things towards you, the more self-assured you become. So see, self-assurance is the gift of 20. So how can we take the shadow of force and really go into that to come out with the gift of self-assurance with this full moon? How can we do that with our learned experience, you know? How can we do that as an experiment? How can we fuck around with that a little bit, with that kind of energy, and see what happens? I love that for awareness as well, you know? The more you're aware, like, let's say that you state your hypothesis. Well, after you've stated your hypothesis, you're going to need to get real aware to notice all of the evidence, information that is, you know, arising, coming into your awareness to either prove or disprove your hypothesis, right? To form a theory even. Okay, so yeah, that's all I'm going to say about the full moon for now. You guys know that I always make a post about every full moon and new moon along with journaling slash tarot card prompts. And so just follow me on social media to see that, to get more information. But I think I'm gonna leave it at that for now in this podcast. Also, while this full moon is going on, though, we are going to have Jupiter conjunct Venus at that critical 29th degree of Taurus, right before it's all about to move into Gemini. To me, that smells like luck. That smells like abundance. I mean, it's Venus is at home in Taurus. It loves to be in Taurus. And a 29th degree is really potent because it's the very end of like its transit through that sign. So like everything that's been going on since Venus entered Taurus, like awareness, right? Think about everything that's been going on. Because that has been trying to help you get really clear and aligned about what you truly value. Think about what you truly value in with your senses, What do you want to see? What do you want to smell? What do you want to taste? What do you want to touch? What do you want to experience? What's value to you? And then Jupiter is taking that and expanding it, showing you that it's possible to be abundant, showing you that what you value can create abundance, right? That's actually something that came up for me personally in the last week, is thinking about like whether your desires are selfish or not, and how sometimes even when something like on the surface appears like, yeah, that maybe be selfish, like the example used was like, if you want to attract like your soulmate relationship, right? Like on a surface level it can be like, this kind of selfish, right? But like, is it actually selfish? Because think of everybody, not even everybody, because it's rare, right? It's rare to find couples in a soulmate type of relationship where like you see an old couple walking down the road and it just like inspires you and gives you hope and lets you see what's possible when it comes to love and relationships. So you finding your soulmate relationship is actually beneficial to everyone who witnesses that relationship in your life. So like, can you see how abundance can be more expansive than we think, like we have to kind of like knock down these walls that are trapping us in certain thought patterns. I think that that's what's going to like, that's what all of these transits through Gemini are going to highlight, is how we get stuck in mental traps or not. So yeah, at about 5 p.m. on Thursday, Venus is going to move into Gemini. So here's where I'm also going to talk about the quote that I love from the esoteric study of the archetype of Gemini, which is this, you always see Gemini with the twins and the duality, right? Well, really what it's about is like the mind-heart balance. One side of your twin is the twin who overthinks everything, like has to know it before it does it, kind of thing, like has to know before it takes action. It's super logical, it's super practical. Then the other side of the twin is your heart side. That's the side of you that wants love, that wants to go after what you desire, that doesn't really like, throws caution to the wind a little bit. That's also why Gemini is mutable, because it can kind of flow between both, or why it's a chameleon and it can kind of talk to all sorts of different people from all sorts of different walks of life, because it's constantly balancing this duality. But the quote that I really love to kind of like sum this up or get you thinking about this in a different way is to think with our hearts and feel with our mind, right? So a lot of the times we want to overthink or we want to overfeel, but it's like, actually, whatever your heart leads you towards is when your mind should come in and think about that. So it's like, we're not collecting random pieces of information for just a fucking logical reason. We're thinking about little bits of information to back up or help us go toward what our heart wants. like we don't have to have all the information. Like I think that that's what I'm trying to say. We don't have to have all the information to follow our heart's desires. We just follow our heart's desires and the information will follow. Okay, then Friday we have Venus making a trine to Pluto. So that is going to be Friday. Venus makes a trine to Pluto. So yeah, Venus now into Gemini, like we said with the sun trine Pluto. So it's like we kind of like lit up what is this Pluto about? Like what how are we breaking out of this group think in these like collective boxes, you know? And then Venus comes in to like also show us like see the value in that, see the value of breaking out of that group think problem or that group think pattern or following the crowd, see the value in that. You know, like that's my point. Like if we kind of like follow our hearts this week, then I think we're going to the information is going to follow and we're going to be like, fuck, I'm glad I did that, you know? Okay, nope, I'm just going to keep moving on. So Saturday at 6, Jupiter is going to move into Gemini. And I think that's what I'm going to get to this point, right? Because now this planet that has love to be in Taurus is in Gemini, not, you know, not as much love there. And this other planet that has, you know, been pretty cool to see in Taurus is also going to move into a place. So Jupiter in Gemini is in detriment, you know. And I think that this honestly goes along with the full moon perfectly because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is where this full moon is occurring in. And so then you can kind of see that duality again between the surface level information and this more experiential kind of deeper wisdom, right? So one is like, I want to say like one is like knowledge and the other is like wisdom. You know, think about the difference between those two words. That's why I'm saying that Jupiter doesn't necessarily love to be in Gemini, but I think that that's why there's this lesson there, and it's going to start this week with the full moon, and then it's going to progress through this entire transit of Jupiter through Gemini. So that's why I think this full moon is a pretty big fucking deal for just that reason alone. And also I think about how Saturn and Pisces along with this has really been calling out like it's interesting. I'm actually planning sometime this week to record another video about like the red flags or the traps that people can fall into when picking a spiritual guide or a healer or even a therapist or a life coach or a guru or like whatever you want to call it, like anyone who's kind of supposed to lead you through this world of philosophy and esoteric information and occult knowledge and like all this shit. It's like there's so many like pitfalls in this world in this realm of life, and I think that Saturn and Pisces has been doing a good job of calling out like the false prophets, as you want to say, but I can really see how this coming transit is going to like amplify that a shitload because now we're getting to that point of like I even think about this, like I'm sorry, I have a lot of, maybe this is, I can tell it's Gemini season, right? Look at me. Because I have a shitload of things just like popping off in my head right now. So take a deep breath. Like I'm thinking about Chat GPT and like how it can spit out some information, you know, Gemini, it can spit out some fucking information. But a lot of the times we're like, eh, you know, we kind of read what it spits out at us and we're like, eh, right? And we're like, do we really see this replacing a human? Do we really see this like teaching people someday? And you know, it could, it might, I'm not denying that, but I'm saying that right now where it's at, it is kind of like just like this duality of these archetypes that I'm talking about. The reason why it doesn't compare to when a human gives you that information is because that human is giving it to you from a place of their own lived experience. A lot of the times anyway, but that is the duality of this, you know? That's the duality of Gemini and Sagittarius, is how well do you and think about the fact that the full moon is happening in the third line of this fuck around and find out kind of energy is so perfect for what I'm talking about right now, because it's like, how well do you take that information and fuck around with it and find out and get your fucking hands dirty and try it out. And I love this even for like all spiritual information in general. Like, I am so lucky in the fact that like one of the people that I followed and looked up to in this realm always prefaced with like, hey, whatever I'm saying, don't just take it as truth. Get out there and try it for yourself. Like, my experience of God is my experience of God. And I'm not trying to say like my experience of God is the only truth out there in the world. I'm trying to show you how if you use these certain tools that I'm trying to give to you, you can experience God for yourself in your own way. Like, reach your own conclusion, right? But you never will if you just sit there with your 100 tabs open but never walk outside the house. You feel me? That's the main thing that's really like popping through with this. So that's all I'm going to say about the transits this week. It's really energy right now. For the moon part of this, we are starting today with the moon in Libra in the quarter of duality, and we will move through to Sunday, the moon being in Capricorn in the quarter of mutation. So we are also doing a little bit of like everything I've talked about in this episode so far. We're also using this in a way of like relating to others and kind of like relating to others and having faith. You know, and that also comes to like, I guess when you see other people out there in the world trying to follow their hearts and trying to figure out their unique place in the world, like, stop trying to box them into your box, you know? When you think of this in a relational kind of way, like I think that in order for us to really get good at relationships, we have to really get good at taking care of ourselves first. Like, I know it sounds cliche, but it's so fucking true. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot take care of other people when you don't take care of yourself. You cannot love someone else if you don't love yourself. Like, it all starts with how you give this energy to yourself, and then you're going to have an overflow abundance of it to pour on to other people. And if we can all uniquely do that for ourselves, then we're going to create a healthy ecosystem where everybody is playing their divine part in this, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, this fucking matrix, right? If we're all playing our individual part in this matrix, then maybe we can break out of the fucking matrix, right? Like, maybe we can figure out what it's like to actually be a natural ecosystem of, 7.5 billion people, or how many ever fucking people live here. And maybe we can figure out how to actually live in tune and in alignment with the earth, with, again, the natural cycles and rhythms of the naturalness of it all, instead of trying to think our way through everything and force things to go our way and control other people and control resources and hoard wealth and suck other people dry. Your natural strength, talents, purpose in this world does not require you to steal, take, and suck from other people. I don't know. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the card portion of this. So the first card I pulled was the Carnivorous Fairy. Let's read the divination message of this. Pay attention. When this card shows up in a reading, look carefully at someone or a situation around you. Her beauty tempts people in, but the purpose of the flowers is to devour, making it difficult to escape unharmed. You may have been told such situations are wonderful agents of change and growth, but the truth is that you do not need to learn this lesson again. The plants in this beautiful yet faintly macabre image represents someone or something that is attractive yet dangerous. There is a being who may feed off your energy or even eat you alive. Watch for people who consume more than they give, people who bully and swallow others, who argue you out of your beliefs. That's a big one. With Sagittarius can also be said to be our beliefs, our philosophies in life, so watch out for that as well. Argue you out of your beliefs, ignore you, or constantly seek your approval and praise, and then grow hostile when you no longer give it. If you are appeasing another instead of having an equal relationship, or if you are fearful of being consumed by an environment that is toxic yet seductive, it may be that the carnivorous flower fairy has come forth to show you clearly what you need to avoid. The carnivorous flower fairy speaks. Am I not beautiful? Wouldn't you like to come a little closer? I am sure you will appreciate my beauty once you are able to see me properly. And no, of course I won't hurt you. I am just, after all, a girl. I may look like an innocent girl holding a bouquet of flowers, and I am. But my nature is to devour, as is theirs. And so, before you decide to step closer to me and to work with this energy, know that you may be meeting a dream eater, one who consumes, who takes, who delights in watching the predatory actions of others, who dominates, controls, criticizes, and judges. I will eat what I can, and I will eat what comes near me. It is my nature, and although some may promise you they will not, if it is their nature to do such things, it is inevitable that they will do so. Do not forget who they are, and do not try to make them what they are not or change and save them with your love. They will eat you and delight in doing so. No further words, right? You may observe someone speaking cruelly about others, sending out toxic energy, seeming to feel extremely entitled to money, fame, life force, and attention, but unable to create their own. See, that's the thing too about force versus strength. Force is when you are trying to force money, fame, life force, and attention, but you're not creating it yourself. See, creating it yourself is strength. Strength is when you stand in yourself and it comes toward you, instead of you going out there and trying to control how it gets to you. They treat themselves rather like royalty and as if others are servants whose purpose is to fulfill their wishes. They can be charming and cunning because they do want you to do something for them. And see, that's the thing too about like false prophets or fake gurus or all this shit that has been coming up a lot lately is like, unfortunately, the shittiest ones end up getting the most popular, the most attention, the most fame, because we have a world right now that is set up on an algorithm type of basis that when you say the contrary thing, when you say the shock value thing, when you're like just surface level charming, because like think about that. When I say surface level charming, that means it's not coming from an authentic place. That means it's used as a tool, as a tactic to get what they want, but they're good at it because it works, right? It works to get them what they want. So unfortunately, those are the ones that tend to attract the biggest following. And that's really sad and unfortunate. It's unfortunate that a lot of people fall for that charm and that charisma, fall into that trap. And then they get no value out of that, or they get further down this rabbit hole of just lostness. Again, I'm going to record another video just about this because I have a lot to say. They can be charming and cunning because they do want you to do something for them. They spend much of their time trying to feed off others. And if you deny them this, they become very angry. Narcissistic. They see you as a source for them, a way of getting something. This is sad, but even sadder if you allow yourself to be their victim. This could indicate either a person or a workplace or a belief system that is demanding, all consuming, and almost cult like in its practices and ethics. Fucking watch out for that cult like mentality with Pluto and Aquarius. Whatever and whomever the carnivorous flower fairy represents, it is a dangerous alliance to contemplate. Do not get too close. Observe and learn if you must. Do not become an experiment. They will bite you and they will try to take from you. It is their very nature. So don't get caught up in the experiment of other people's. Figure out your own experiment, you know? And don't like experiment with other people, experiment with yourself, you know, like that's another thing too. Like we're not trying to compete against other people, we're competing against the person we were yesterday. It starts with you. Okay, and then last card we got is Archangel Gabriel in the reverse position. Gabriel appearing reversed indicates that you may be having a difficult time where communication is concerned. I can't make this up. You are not speaking out for yourself, or you're filling your own mind with negative words. This could be a life lesson for you, something you've needed to change for a long time. Gabriel is a powerful force that can bring divine love and courage to your expression, and his help is yours for the asking. It's up to you to reach out to this wonderful angel who is always available and willing to help. Let his peaceful yet powerful presence fill you with courage now. This angel has been a friend to your soul throughout the history of the Akashic records. This time of confusion or disruption in communication is a perfect opportunity to reawaken yourself to that profound friendship and to your worthiness and power to express yourself and speak your truth. So figure out what you need to say, meditate on Gabriel's loving presence, and start to get comfortable hearing your own positive and powerful voice. It's time to speak up, not shut up. This is fucking beautiful. This right here reminds me of the duality of, like I said, the people that are just surface level, charming, charismatic, but behind it is just a bunch of shit, versus the people that have been silent for so fucking long because they feel like they're in this like competition. You know, they're like, oh, I'm not charming enough, I'm not charismatic enough, I'm not like, I don't have a big enough following, I don't have important things to say. And it's all a bunch of bullshit. Like you do have important things to say, and we've been going through all these transits of like finding your own like inner light, your own creativity, your own authentic self, like figuring out how to stop being a fucking people pleaser and like figure out who you authentically are instead of just being this person that everybody else wants you to be. So if you resonate with that and you're like, yeah, that has been me for a while, I have been doing that work, then now it's time to start expressing that self. With all these transits moving into Gemini, it's so important. With everything going on with this like calling, like these their time is closing, their time is over, and there is space in the world to be filled with people like you who have this authentic voice to share. That's not just a fucking sham, you know? So with that, I will leave it at that. And as for like announcements, my kids are out on summer break now, so I can actually meet in the evening hours more often now throughout the summer months. So if that's something that, like, if you've been interested in working with me, but you haven't been able to find something that works for you in my set hours or my schedule, just send me a message and we can talk about that, or leave a comment down below. Yeah, and by the way, if you made it through this entire episode and you really liked, you know, everything that was said in here and it was helpful or was valuable to you, please consider liking, leaving feedback, like leaving a comment, subscribing to my channel, inviting other people, like sharing my video to other people you think would enjoy it, or that would find value in it, because that's how this is going to grow. And that's how I know that it's worth my time to do once a week, right? Like I take an hour and a half out of my life every week to do this, and I don't mind doing it, and I love doing it, and it's my way of kind of giving back to my community. But you know, let's just amplify that energy, I guess is all I'm saying. And as for the new moon workshop, we're still in conversation about when exactly that's going to be, but expect that coming up before the next new moon. If you follow my socials, which are all linked down below, you will find all the information for that. So thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I hope you guys all have an amazing week ahead and an amazing full moon, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you guys.